DARPA, so the Department for Advanced Research Project Agency. Many of our listeners will know about them. They were started after Sputnik, and it was basically this part of the military that does research, and they do grants and they do challenges, basically to try to find out what's the most advanced technologies when it comes to conflict. And this week, they are actually doing this one called the Heavy Lift Drone Challenge. And basically, we won't go through the whole article, but basically they offered a challenge where the agency is awarding $6.5 million in prizes to the winners. And my understanding is the basic challenge is if you can build a drone that weighs 50 pounds or less and can carry a package that weighs 100 pounds through this obstacle course, and it, there's a number of challenge kind of metrics that they have to perform on, you win this prize, and you're part of this prize. And they've done a number of these DARPA challenges over the years. They have for, decades actually. And I guess I was a little surprised by this, and I thought, wow, is this actually people in the United States defense apparatus finally starting to take the drone threat extremely seriously?
For our listeners that maybe haven't been clued in, my opinion, Don's opinion, that America has not been taking the drone, I won't even say the drone threat. They have not been taking drones seriously, period. And the evidence of that has been borne out in this conflict with Iran in the Persian Gulf.
Yes.
For example, I think that the most notable example is these Shahed drones, the kind of delta-shaped drones. They have some rocket-powered ones, but most of them are propeller-powered. They're pretty slow. They're loud. They're easy to see. I think it was the first or second day of the war. I saw one of those fly into the United States' biggest naval base in Bahrain. These drones cost like $10,000, maybe less. And I saw one of those drones blow up a $1 billion radar. Now, I won't say that knocking these things down is a solved problem, but I think Ukraine intercepts like 75, 80% of these types of drones because Russia uses the same kind of drones. They call them the Geron, but Geron, however you say it, they got them from Iran initially. Delta-shaped drones, slow, cheap, have a pretty big warhead on them. Ukraine can shoot them down. The United States can't. And what have we been doing? My mind is boggled. The Pentagon is such a big institution. You would think that they would have thousands of people whose job it is to study this conflict that everyone knows is the future of war. And it's what's happening with drones there. And none of the lessons were learned. After a lot of those radars got blown up, the U.S. went and asked Ukraine if they could send crews to train Americans on intercepting these high-volume, long-range strike drones. That being said, there's the context. I'm very surprised that someone is taking this seriously. And also, to further disambiguate things, I don't think if DARPA taking it seriously necessarily means the Pentagon is taking it seriously. I don't know the exact administrative breakdown there.
Well, you've said a lot, Don. I mean, who can tell how seriously they're taking it? I'm sure they'd have projects and this, that, and the other, but I think the general critique that you're kind of getting at is the United States, like, kind of defense supply chains and defense apparatus is just too slow. It is a legacy system. They have these so-called prime contractors that do the vast majority of the actual defense contracts. Large companies like General Dynamics and Lockheed Martin, right? They kind of have these like 5 prime companies that do the vast majority of that stuff. And basically, the critique is they can't kind of respond quick enough to these new threats and retooling. And a lot of the armament requirements are actually like laws that were passed. Like, for example, how many aircraft carriers the United States Navy needs to maintain, even though in the last like literally 2, 3, 4 years, there has been very serious questions about even are large carriers even the proper platform to wage the next war? Are they actually the right technology given drones. And so I guess I'll take the position that I think this is a good sign. Things are moving in the right direction. DARPA is trying to do these kind of crazy challenges. I guess I would just say double down. I worry that we just are in a position legislatively and regulatorily that we can't respond quick enough. We can't build munition plants quick enough. You'll have so many actors in here using free speech, even though they're foreign actors, completely getting everyone upset about the frogs or the the something plant or whatever, or even just the aesthetics of it. And we aren't even able to manufacture things for deterrence reasons, nonetheless, a major conflict.
No,
So I'm very concerned.
something you said earlier about the defense production apparatus not being able to produce these drones. I don't know if I agree with that. And I don't know a lot about this, but I'm pretty sure that these kind of physical interceptor drones, so deeper context, there's a lot of context here, but these drones, the most efficient way to knock them down is with essentially a quadcopter with a big ram on it. And you just fly into them and knock them down. The Ukrainians have these, but there are also U.S. defense startups that build these things. The orders just haven't been placed. And my only evidence here is an interview I listened to yesterday. For those who are looking for good military content, Preston Stewart on YouTube does really balanced, very informative videos. He was a U.S. military officer, so it comes from the perspective of primarily of the U.S. military, but very informative videos. He interviewed a guy that said basically exactly what I just said, that a lot of these drones exist, at least the cheap interceptors, they just weren't purchased. Where the production breaks down is the expensive interceptors, like the why can't I remember the name right now? The Patriot missiles, and THAAD interceptors, and the strike platforms as well, like the Tomahawk and other things like that, which run up to like $1 million a unit. So
Yeah.
I maybe that just underlines the point that this someone isn't doing something right, because some of the companies are building these things.
There's deeper issues than that, though, Don, because they can't even get like the entire supply chain. A lot of it is in China. So, like, can you even get? They just need to place the order. That's not the way the world works, man. You don't just have a giant assembly line just sitting there ready to go. Oh, they just need to place the order, and we're ready to rip and roll. And I'm not trying to insult you. I'm just saying that what I'm concerned about is there's just so much dishonesty in the way that things are reported now, intentionally trying to mislead people into things that aren't there. And I'm just like, oh, everything is fine. And it's like, okay, well, I saw a headline today that said that like all these critical missiles are basically depleted now from this Iranian conflict, and they can't keep ramping up it the way they are. Like, okay, is that true? Is it not true? I've been hearing that for months now. I don't know. So I'm just saying that, like, it's extremely disconcerting. You don't want to release that information if it is true, because now you're a sitting duck. But at the same time, like, okay, it's like, oh, there's some stupid, like, mid-level Senate race, and, like, everyone is now lying and throwing up all this propaganda. And it's like, we don't have anyone we can trust anymore to actually look at them and be like, are we protected or are we not? When do we actually decide to engage like these very heavy-handed like export control laws that are supposed to be very sacrosanct? Like, these are actually very important things. They shouldn't just be thrown around and being like, oh, we don't have enough AI models. Oh, we don't have enough, quarter 20 nuts. Like, what are we talking about anymore? I guess that's why I'm upset. I'm getting fired up.
Are we past the event horizon?
That's what I'm worried about.
I wonder is like, is it already over?
That's what I'm worried about.
Are we incapable of producing? Okay, let me lay out the situation. The kind of military we need is basically the Ukrainian military with a much greater expeditionary capability and 10x the volume. That's millions and millions and millions of drones of different types. Sea drones, air drones, probably space drones. I
Yeah.
mean, we need a volume
don't need
that is
no.
incomprehensible, and I don't even think we can match the volume of Ukraine. And I don't think that we can win. If I believe that is what we need to win a war, not even with China, but with like Russia or Iran. And by I say win a war as in like compel them to do what the United States wants to. Like the US has suffered a strategic defeat with Iran. Like it is defeat. What is the next war going to be like? There's no indication of serious preparation. We know what we need to do. It's not being done. DARPA, I guess, is kind of doing it, but is anyone else? I don't know.
I don't know though, man. I mean, I guess I'm just in the camp of I don't know. I don't see enough information. Like even this DARPA thing, is this like a psyop even from our own military that's like, oh, we're actually have no idea. So like, oh, I know, let's have like some very public like DARPA demonstrations that do all these very interesting things, and then it kind of scares people. And it's like, okay, but like, dude, you can just like step back and look at proxies. Like your domestic manufacturing base for peacetime is what you're going to spin over to for war, and we don't have it, and we can't build it.
Well,
and
to
I know
your
there's
point,
only
we can't even get the parts, or even
we can't even get the parts,
the minerals, the rare earth minerals.
I don't think we even have the will to do it, man.
Right. We're psychically deficient.
We're psychically deficient, and I think a lot of it is just due to just like we've become so divided over these silly things. And I don't know. I don't even know where we're going on this section, to be honest with you, because it just gets me upset.
We're getting derailed. I don't even know. Maybe we're not getting derailed. We're being honest. We're venting honest. First off, there is as we said earlier, an epistemic status. There's epistemic static, especially with this, where we can't know for sure, but our instincts are that things are bad. Because
things are not good.
No one in leadership would have allowed this to be the outcome of this conflict if they had the means to do something else. And so what other conclusions can you, that's the best we can do in inferring the reality of the situation. And I think you and I are both American patriots, defined as, of course, we care about the United States and this country being
and its people.
And its people having successful and fulfilling and dignified lives, despite, for those who can't see, I have a meme behind me that's kind of roasting the United States invasion and colonization of the Philippines. Disregard that. Mark Twain, who's a great American, thought that conflict was a bad idea. Despite I care about the United States.
Can I just quick add on that really quickly?
Yes.
And for those of us who are brain dead in our audience, because I know they're out there, that doesn't mean that we think America is perfect.
Yes.
Right? And that's just a distinction I want to make for the brain dead members of our audience. And I know that there are some that listen. So we
love our brain dead listeners.
Yes. I just wanted to make that very clear. You can still love your country, and you can still want us to succeed, and you can still say we are still a very, very good country while not perfect. Yes. I just wanted to say that.
The production of munitions, especially of the cheap and attritable variety, is definitely something we are not perfect at.
It doesn't seem to be the case.
No.
It doesn't seem to be the case. I remember reading a statistic from what I thought was a pretty reputable source about the like differential in like these particular artillery shell armament or munitions at some point in the Ukraine-Russia war. And it was like Russia could outproduce us like 15-1 or something. And it was like at that particular point in the conflict, that was all really that mattered. And so it's kind of like if you can't retool, if you can't pivot because you've like built this entire apparatus where only 2 people are allowed to build this because of every reason under the sun, and you can't retool over to do it, like, guys, what are we talking about?
Well, the Chinese can outproduce us on ship hauls like 100-1.
I bet you they can I think it's actually 200-1, I remember.
You're probably right. And I guess we have allies in South Korea and Japan that have pretty big shipyards, but they're very close to a country, China, that we would potentially have to fight with. And then, are you going to build any more ships there? Not when you have UUVs sailing in and blowing up the hulls before they're even out of the dry dock.
Are you familiar with the USS Gerald R. Ford, the like latest supercarrier?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that thing is like not even ripping yet. Is it finally out to sea yet? How long has it taken? It's taken like a decade to build that thing. And it seems like the platform is already obsolete with hypersonic missiles. And I mean, I know we're all just ranting now. And I mean, I'm sure some military historian would take everything that we're saying with like a grain of salt or this, that, and the other. But like, I just want to say one more thing. The fact that we as intelligent people are like, I don't know, is the problem. That's actually the part of this segment that you should be taking away.
We're just regular guys trying to figure out what's going on. And we're concerned. We're regular, concerned guys trying to figure out what's going on, and it's not looking good from what we can ascertain. Although we're wonder,
regular, concerned. Yeah.
I ask myself this question. Is this a feature and not a bug? Right? Were there people, influential people, who could see the writing on the wall in 2023, in 2015, people who knew but did not do anything because, and I love you guys, but the defense primes thought, no, we need $1 million missiles and we need $100 million fighter jets, and no, the price can't go down, and no, the volume and the quality cannot go up, and that's that, right? Is that a feature? Like, they were making so much money that the interests of the actual capabilities of the military were secondary. That is the disturbing theory that I have. That, again, I can't prove.
It doesn't even have to be a malicious theory, because many of these contracts are so-called cost plus. So whatever it costs, then they just add on a little thing. So you could very easily convince yourself, it's like, hey, I actually need a bigger team. I'm doing the right thing. I'm trying to build the most advanced defense platforms. I need a bigger team, which just costs more money. And I just get more money for doing that. So it doesn't even necessarily have to be this like I'm not going to go so far as to say like there are people out there that want America to lose in the defense apparatus. That is a bit too far for me, and I think it's outrageous. I mean, I'm sure there are some, right, and they're spies and this kind of thing, right? But like not really, right? Like there are no people who are out there who are like genuinely in it just for the like money. Like I don't think they actually believe that, but I think they can do a lot of the mental gymnastics, as you would say, to end up with more revenue.
Well, in their publicly traded companies, right? Raytheon, Lockheed,
most of those.
What are the
General
other defense
Electric.
primes? Yeah, they're publicly traded, and
Boeing is another big one.
They're under the same pressures that all other publicly traded companies are. And if you have a recipe that works and everyone is aligned, the leadership, the lobbyists, the elected officials themselves, you have this whole system where everyone makes money and everyone gets what they want, except for the military when they finally have to fight a war.
Right.
Why would you change it? And to your point of it not necessarily being malicious, I think a lot of these people are probably true believers, from the people in Lockheed Skunk Works making the most advanced radar evasion materials to the CEO who is like, I am making the most advanced weapons and we're making lots of money. It's probably easy to find. I think anyone who's very invested in a specific course of action that has positive incentives is pretty good at finding information to reinforce their viewpoints in their activities. I assume that's what's going on here, because I don't want to. It's hard to believe that everyone is malicious, but there is another end of it where it's like, when do you just call corruption?
Well, I mean, but it's a lot of these systems are just legacy systems that when they were set up actually made sense, but they just haven't been updated.
Right. Okay. Well, that's like maybe even a totally different failure mode. You're like, it's not malicious undermining and it's not pure corruption. It's just the inertia of the post-Cold War 90s defense apparatus, when all these defense companies merged into a few super contractors, and
Yeah.
here
Well,
we are.
many of the companies that actually kind of won World War II were startups. A lot of the companies that put a lot of that technology together, So
Mhm.
I don't know. We can go on for days about this, and we kind of took a different angle on this topic than I thought. But I think we just kind of vented a little bit of this just frustration in terms of we spend a lot of money on defense every year, and the fact that it's like not clear that we actually are this like no, unipolar, no near peer military force anymore is extremely disturbing. It's extremely
Yeah.
disturbing, especially when your leadership are making decisions like we are, and they're not looking at alternative methods to actually do things and have outcomes, which is what you should be doing.
Well, all Americans, I don't think enough citizens of the United States or residents of the United States or residents of the world really, they don't step back enough and think about the fact that the United States is an empire. The United States is a global empire, and what happens to that empire affects you. And it's especially American taxpayers, but there are other groups of people like in American client states that are heavily affected.
It affects
This
everybody, man.
stuff, but there's like this mass amnesia. People pretend that America's global empire doesn't exist. And like, la 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 la, sports betting, right? Oh, we'll watch sports and we'll pretend that
Yeah.
we don't run a global empire. Well, we run a global empire, and when it is impotent,
Yeah.
that's a very, very bad thing. I think, like you were saying, the inertia that made us maybe not change systems that we needed to change.
Yes.
A lot of that was probably kicked off in the first Gulf War when we completely exceeded expectations and eradicated the Iraqi military, which was the fourth biggest military on earth, like behind
but size
Russia
doesn't matter.
and
dude.
China.
Size doesn't matter. Size
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
We destroyed them with all of these precision high-tech munitions that we had been
Right.
working on, and I think maybe people were like, okay, well, we'll just keep doing that, and things have completely changed with drones, and we have not changed.
So many things have changed. Even just the idea of we're just too financially levered. Like all of these things
Yeah.
are connected. I guess the final comment that I will make is a handful of years ago, many people were losing their minds over the Hamilton musical. I believe it was a musical, right? Broadway musical.
I'm really excited to
Okay.
see where you're going with this.
Yes. I have always been interested in learning more about history. I don't know if I know about as much history as you do, and certainly I know people who know more, but I know a fair bit. A big part of how I get that is through biographies, and I read the incredible Ron Chernow documentary or biography about Alexander Hamilton, which is what the guy that wrote the musical actually based the musical on.
Mhm.
And the reason I'm bringing this all up is, according to that book, basically Alexander Hamilton was kind of credited with coming up with this idea. He's like, we are not going to be able to beat the British. That's not going to happen. If they want to win this war, they will win this war. But what we can do is we can make the war bond market in Europe think we might. And if they think we might, they'll stop buying war bonds, and then the king can't keep executing this war. The Revolutionary War was like 8 years. And so it was this just long, drawn out, like mind game almost of trying to just make it seem like they might win the war. That is the kind of strategy and thinking that I don't think Americans have anymore. We don't think smart like that. We don't think, hey, let's just go bomb these guys. Do you know what I mean? And if they are, that's great. But to the guy who's out here, Joe America or Alexander Hamilton, acolyte, right? Like we don't see it anymore, man. And we're having serious concerns. And we need leadership that is not incompetent. And then they're all incompetent, by the way. This is not a
Right.
dig on Trump.
This is not just
This
a
is
Trump
not a
administration
Trump. No.
problem. This is a
No.
Biden
The
problem,
last one was
Obama
far
problem,
worse,
Bush
'cause that guy
problem,
couldn't even talk.
Clinton problem, Reagan problem. I mean, all of these, basically going back to the Vietnam War.
I was going to go to, I was actually going to even go a little farther, but we're about there. Yeah.
Yeah. There's just just drop bombs, no clear strategy, no finesse.
No finesse, no thinking long term, no thinking, this bravado in your face. Like, dude, the Chinese are not thinking that way. They're thinking much smarter. A lot of cultures and societies around the world are thinking a little smarter, guys. And there are real constraints in this world, and some of them are not just brawn. So you got to figure it out. That's my final thought on this topic.
Let me see. Do I have a final thought? Do I have closing comments? I just want to close by, again, commenting on my background here. For those of you who can't see, I have a picture of Bart Simpson, and the caption says, "War in the Philippines, 1896. I was there, and it sucked." I thought this was funny. As you know, Bredrick, and people that watch this on YouTube or any video platform, I like to throw some silly memes in the background. But since we're talking about the American empire, I think this is funny because people forget that we took over and colonized the Philippines, and it was kind of a scandal when it happened, because the United States had positioned itself as an anti-imperial entity. Right, we won our independence from the British Empire. We were this democracy that believed in self-determination, and these we took the Philippines from the Spanish in the Spanish-American War, and there were these Philippine freedom fighters, and some people in the United States believed that we were then going to allow the Filipinos this self-determination, just like the United States. Instead, we waged this war, basically like a guerrilla war, and they were guerrillas against the United States military. We crushed them, and we took it as a colony. And Mark Twain, who I mentioned earlier, famous American author and cultural commentator, was famously very upset by this, among other people. Long story short, it's a good, I won't say microcosm, but like a single example on the confusion and kind of the memory holing and the significance of America's global overseas empire. We need to keep it in focus, and the events that have unfolded over the past few months are very concerning for America's global empire and everyone affected by it, which is most people. And I'm a concerned party, just like you, Bredrick, and that's all I have to say.